Thank you, Jill. I'm Bill Good, and good morning. The NDP has launched a new ad. It's online, and it's aimed at discrediting the leading Liberal leadership candidates. Imagine a photocopier with the pictures of Kevin Falcon, George Abbott, Christy Clark, and Mike de Jong coming off the machine with this voice in the background.
Something's wrong with the BC Liberal photocopier. All the Liberal leadership candidates were key players in Gordon Campbell's cabinet. They all supported the HST and were part of the BC rail scandal. For almost a decade, they've kept families from getting ahead, resulting in an era of record child poverty. And they've all promised to continue Gordon Campbell's reckless economic policies. We can't afford more of the same. A message from BC's New Democrats.
Apparently, the NDP doesn't consider Moira Stillwell or Ed Mains a serious threat. But at a time when we're being asked to consider Mike Farnworth, John Horgan, and Adrian Dix as front-runners for the NDP leadership, and the NDP is in considerable turmoil, I find it interesting that the NDP is spending time and money discrediting the Liberal leadership candidates. This at a time when Adrian Dix is fighting to escape his past, is backdating a memo to protect then Premier Glenn Clark, and bringing in 5,000 new members with a bag of money. And a new poll showing him trailing Mike Farnworth and John Horgan. When the NDP dumped Carol James in a nasty internal fight, they lost the high ground. Both parties are desperately in need of renewal. The NDP may attack Gordon Campbell, but he stepped down. He wasn't stabbed in the back by his cabinet and backbenchers, but he lost the confidence of the public after having won 3 elections. The NDP dumped a leader who'd brought them from 2 seats to 35, but couldn't win an election. And now, instead of trying to tell us why they deserve a term in government or why one of their candidates is worthy of our support, they spend their time and money tearing down their opponents. It just encourages the kind of politics that turns people off, the kind of politics that sees fewer and fewer people motivated to show up at the polls to vote for something. Alise Mills is a BC Liberal strategist and supporter of Kevin Falcon in the Liberal leadership campaign. She joins me this morning. Alise Mills, good morning.
Good morning, Bill.
What was your reaction to the NDP ad?
Well, I think you actually summed it up in your editorial a couple of minutes ago. You hit on some of the finer points. I think that you're right. We have to dial it back and actually look at what this ad represents. It's extremely negative. It has no narrative, and it doesn't tell the voters why they should support the NDP. They toss a lot of things to the wall to see if it's going to stick. And, I found, I'm going to say this in a nonpartisan way if I can, as a strategist, I found that the ad was cheap, it was tired, and it was just quickly kind of put up as a way to stay relevant. It's very typical of an opposition to put something out there like this, and with the internet now, you don't have to load it onto TV, and you don't have to spend a fortune, which they don't have, but it generates some press. I mean, we're talking about it this morning. It's been top story on all the major news networks this morning, but it's a way for them to stay relevant with the public. And
I'm sure, having heard this, a number of people will go online to watch it. I guess the question I have is, will it work? Will it be effective? And are people still taken to, and I don't even know if I'd call it an attack ad. It's a negative ad, but it's not brutal, it's not vicious, it's simply a negative ad.
Well, it's an ad that we could have seen back in 2001, 2005, and 2009. I don't think it's an attack ad. I don't think it has any teeth. I think it's completely boring. Just the whole visual of it. You're looking to bring in female voters. You're looking to bring in different ethnic groups. You're looking to bring in, to generate some sort of buzz and feeling and a connection. I don't know how this ad builds a connection. You're right in what you said, where it doesn't offer anything up. It looks very, very negative, and it's not even nasty. It's just really boring and really negative. It doesn't have a fresh message. And this is a party, and I'm really quite surprised by this, because this is a party that was 20 points ahead in the polls. tore down a leader that had built those 20 points, said that they did this because they needed a fresh message, they needed to move forward and build their core audience. Well, this just goes right to the core audience. This isn't playing to anybody else.
Well, you're a political strategist. What is the strategy for you and your party? And does it change depending upon who wins the leadership?
Well, this is what I couldn't understand about the NDP. I mean, obviously, again, this is to stay relevant because they're in the middle of a leadership race. And unlike us, their party, as we all know, has been in chaos. I mean, every time they try and do something internally, it ends up on the front page of the papers. They've had lots and lots of issues. I mean, every week we're hearing something. And there still isn't a narrative from that party, where I believe that we've always kind of stayed to a core narrative where we are a party that supports free enterprise, we support BC families, we build off the narrative. And of course, I think there's a little bit of a hold to wait for that leader to come in, because rightfully so, you want to build your brand around those new policies, around the new leadership.
You're not without your own potholes, though. You do have Casheed and
yes.
That story in the news right now.
Yes, and that's obviously a difficult time for the party, and that's something that we're we're hoping that Mr. Heed's going to be able to work out, and we'll let Elections BC make that decision. And I think the caucus is going to hold in making any decisions until Elections BC comes forward. But I think generally as a whole, we've been able to maintain a consistent brand and message, and you're not seeing the knife wielding go on. I mean, Gordon, I look at that message, and Premier Campbell has stepped aside. We're in a leadership race. The NDP kind of go back to the past all the time, and it's a bit rich coming out and saying that that they're the holders of economic policies, and I kind of think, well, you're going to have to kind of close the credibility gap, because British Columbians remember you for something a whole lot different. Again, if I was their strategist, and I would say, don't waste the time or the money, even if it's uploaded on YouTube, which is pretty cheap and easy. I would, be recognizing the weak spots. They've got a trust issue, a leadership issue, and they just don't seem to, the public doesn't sense a stability amongst them. So the public isn't going to honor them with that trusted vote.